Bret Behrens.
Bret, where did you attend high school, and what about your college career?
Yeah, so I went to Mahomet Seymour High School, and I graduated in 2005. From there, I went to Parkland and was there for 3 years, actually, and then went to SIU in Carbondale for 2 years, graduated in 2010. So I've known since probably 7th grade that I wanted to be in sports broadcasting. When I figured out, when I didn't make the 7th grade basketball team, that, hey, maybe sports were going to be my future, and being a professional baseball player probably wasn't going to be there. So didn't mean I didn't work hard at sports. I played 2 sports at Mahomet High School, Mahomet Seymour, both football and baseball. Was a just average player at both of them, but really enjoyed my time, worked really hard in high school. And then once I got to Parkland, and even actually a little bit before Parkland, I was writing for the News Gazette when I was in high school. For some reason, they let a high school kid have a byline in the News Gazette to string games. I got $30 a game to go write a story about a high school somewhere, which is really the start of something somewhat quote unquote professional. I worked for my high school paper then, but that's whatever. So writing for the News Gazette was a really, really good experience. And then started doing everything at Parkland on radio. They didn't have a TV program then, so just called a bunch of radio games for Parkland baseball, basketball, everything else in there. And then went to SIU and dove head into the TV angle, which is what I really wanted to do all along. And it's at my time at SIU where I worked really hard for my 2 years there, being on camera, learning how to produce, learning how to write, learning how to be on camera and the presence and having an on-camera presence, reading off a teleprompter, how to shoot, how to edit, everything else there that really got me off and running in the business. So I got my first job in the business in 2010, really early on. And I was still in college, and the ABC affiliate down in Southern Illinois, WSIL, hired me out of an internship to be their weekend news producer. So I was producing a weekend newscast while also doing some sports shooting and some other things for them on a part-time basis, January of 2010. Seems like a long time ago now, it's 12 years. But that was my first experience in the business, and that really set the tone for me to take a path down this career and what this has been the last decade plus. And so from there, I became the number 3 sports person at WSIL. Also reported on some news for a little bit there, which reaffirmed to me that I did not want to do news. I'm all sports through and through. So worked really hard to get that number 3 sports position there. And I got that in what would have been like early 2011. And then in 2013, moved up here to WCIA, my hometown station, the channel I grew up watching, to be the number 3 sports position. And it was a little bit of a lateral move at that point, but little did I know that within 2.5 years, I'd be the sports director here. And so really, really fortunate for how that timing played out. And sometimes it's all about just being in the right place at the right time, being in the building, working really hard to prove your worth and prove that you can do it. And then, timing just has to be on your side a little bit. So I'm the sports director here, which means that I'm in charge of the entire sports operation and department and what we do. And so my boss, the news director here, comes to me and says, what are we doing for sports? And it's up to me to staff the sports department, to arrange schedules, to figure out where we're gonna go, how we're gonna go, from high school to Illinois and everything else in between. And so that all falls on my shoulders, and I work in a really talented 3-person sports department. So I'm the sports director. Andy Olson is our weekend sports anchor, and then Bryce Beeman is our sports reporter, and she'll start here in a couple of weeks with us on the team. So it's my job to manage the department and to make sure that everything runs smoothly, so that way when my news director comes to me and says, hey, what are we doing in sports, whatever else, that I have an answer for him.
So far in your time here, what's been your favorite moment?
Man, I've been really fortunate to cover a lot of things and do a lot of fun trips. I've been all over the country, which is really cool because I love to travel. So, the best assignment I've ever had was going to Maui for a week. That was a lot of fun, certainly, covering the Maui Invitational with Illinois. The Illini weren't very good that year, back in 2018-19, but it was a lot of fun to get paid to go to Maui, so that was really cool. Probably the best venue I've ever been to is Madison Square Garden. Back in 2014, Illinois played Villanova at MSG, and I was fortunate enough to be there on the court, and one of the most historic venues of all time. So from Hawaii to New York City to Washington, D.C., pretty much everywhere in between, I've had the pleasure and fortune to travel and get to cover some really good games. And that's a lot of fun. That's one of the best parts about this job, is getting to go to games and be there and get paid to be there. But I really like telling stories, and some of the best stories, I've been able to tell have really impacted, people and been able to share their stories. And that's what I really love about this job is storytelling and taking someone someplace that maybe they wouldn't go previously. Like Kofi Coburn, when he was still in high school at Oak Hill, I went all the way out to Virginia to do a story on him, drove 12 hours one way to go out there and talk to him before anyone really knew who Kofi was or what he was able to do. And so those types of stories and those types of things where you're taking somebody someplace and sharing some information or news with them is one of my favorite parts of the job.
You go cover Illini and then you go cover a high school game. What are the likes and differences for you as far as what do you enjoy the most about that?
Sure. I love covering high school stuff. Probably high school state football playoffs are my favorite thing to cover. Unfortunately, I don't get to do a lot of the high school playoffs because Illinois is always playing. But the lead up to that, is one of my favorite parts about it. And just the fact that, I, as a high school football player myself back in the day, I loved that. The feeling of the playoffs and all the hype surrounding it and going into it and everything else, and that challenge of trying to make it to the state finals, and there's just so much excitement into a Friday night. So I really love the fall, but in terms of Illinois, March Madness is my favorite. And covering Illinois, because there's so much interest in it from so many different people. The fact that you get to be a part of that and cover that and see those games in person is probably my favorite thing to cover overall. There's differences to both of them. There's also advantages to both of them. I love taking people to the high school scene, and there's so much excitement and purity to high school sports and everything else that there is with that, and just the thrill of for those teams, those parents, those fans. I mean, this is the best moment of their life probably, and so to cover that and provide video for that and coverage for that is a lot of fun. And then obviously, just the thrill of, March Madness and covering a top 25 ranked team in the country and, 16,000 people at an arena, whatever else, that's pretty cool as well.
Tell me about your accident you had. What happened and what kind of obstacles are you facing to this day?
Sure. So on June 13th, 2006, I was working a summer job, making $10 an hour and, helping build cell phone towers. And I was supposed to be on a tower that day, climbing. I always loved climbing things, trees, whatever else. I'm what they call a little bit of an adrenaline junkie. And for whatever reason, my crew boss that day said, "Hey, Bret, you're going to be safer on the ground today. This tower is a little bit different, a little bit, you haven't really done anything like this before, so we're going to keep you on the ground today." I thought, okay, no big deal. So I'm the one on the ground next to a truck working a winch rope line system up to the tower, and how we raise the antennas onto the tower that you've seen on cell phone towers all over the place. And so I was the man operating that winch pulley system on the ground. The load that we were raising up through the pulley got loose, and instinctively I just grabbed the rope on the ground. I got caught around my arm. I got catapulted about 80 feet into the air, went into the tower structure itself. When the load hit the ground, the tension in that rope then released, and it flung me inside the tower structure, and I landed right where I started. Fell on my feet, then fell back on my butt, broke both my legs, shattered my ankles, broke my back, L4 burst lumbar. It exploded essentially in my back, and I tore my aorta in my heart, which was the most serious of all of the injuries. And so I'm just 18 years old, everything in front of me that I've wanted to do since 7th grade, right, is now in question. My life is hanging in the balance. And fortunately, I was working 10 minutes from a level 1 trauma center. I was in Rochester, Illinois. They rushed me to Springfield Memorial Hospital. I spent the next 13 days in a coma, 54 days in the hospital, and had to have my left leg amputated below the knee because it was damaged beyond repair where I would be able to walk normally again. Didn't have any brain injury, I wasn't paralyzed. They were able to fix my back through a 13-hour surgery. They repaired my aorta and repaired my leg. And through about 2 years of recovery, I was able to do everything I wanted to do, graduate from SIU with a degree, got my first job. Obviously, the prosthetic I used on my left leg, on my below knee amputation, is still an everyday thing. I wake up every day and have a challenge and figure out, okay, am I going to take today for what it is and try and have a positive attitude and make a change in my life and someone else's life? Or, you can sit around and pout about it. And, I've decided through the last almost 16 years now in my life that I'm going to try and take a positive attitude every single day, that I face some challenges that other people don't have to face. But that's just part of my story, and I've tried to embrace that and make the most of my opportunity at a second chance.
Yeah. Wow.
So it's my prosthetic I wear every day. My leg goes down to about here, and I wear a robot leg.
Funniest moments while on the job?
Man, there's been a lot of what I call one-timers on this job, or just things where you're like, what just happened? Because one of the stressful parts about this job is deadlines, right? The news is on at 6 and 10 every day for sports, and it doesn't ever stop. Like 365, you have those deadlines, and the news is always on. And so that doesn't mean that news isn't happening right up to deadline or some different things. And so, I don't know about funny moments, but there's been a lot of stressful moments. There's been a lot of what I call all-timer moments or one-timer moments where you're just like, man, I can't believe what just happened. And you just have to get through it, right? You have to work well under deadline pressure and figure it out. I'll just share a story. I don't know if it's funny, like it is now, but I was in Minneapolis covering the Illinois Volleyball Final Four in 2018. And I was doing a live shot outside the team hotel. They had just got in about an hour before the newscast. So I was there as they're walking off the bus, first time at the Final Four in would have been 7 years at that point. And just the excitement and, hey, they made it here, everything else. And I wanted to deliver that to our audience. But the thing was, it was about 2 degrees outside in Minneapolis. And I was doing my live shot across the street from the team hotel. And how we do our live shots is you're on your phone. That's how I hear what's going on here at the station, what the anchors are saying and everything else. Well, my phone died because it was so cold. And I guess that's a thing up there that happens quite a bit. It was 2 degrees outside and wind chill, minus that. So I have no idea what the anchors are saying, when my time is for sports. I had to run across the street to the hotel. I found the team manager. I asked him, can I borrow your phone? Because I'm supposed to be live in about 3 minutes on TV in Champaign. I don't know where I'm at. I don't know what it is, I just need a phone. Fortunately, he was willing to give me his phone. I did not know this, Ryan was his name. I didn't know him very well. I just kind of, face to face know him. And I said, here, take my phone, it's dead. I promise I'll be back in about 5 minutes. Can I have your phone? Well, I didn't know the number to the station because it's all saved in your phone, right? I didn't have my scripts because they were all on my phone as well in email. So I just had to wing the shot. I called the number that was on Google Maps that I pulled up for WCIA. I got through, and right as I got called in, my open was rolling, sports with Bret. The open was rolling as I got called in, and I just had to talk. So for 3 minutes of a sportscast, I just talked, and I don't really remember what I said. I didn't have any scripts. We made it through. It was a pretty clean broadcast, and one of those all-timer moments where you just look back and you go, how did we just pull that off? I have no idea, but we made it, and that's part of the fun of the job, So I don't know if that's necessarily funny, like it is kind of now that I was able to just borrow this guy's phone that I didn't barely know, standing outside in 2-degree weather in Minneapolis in December, and you make some TV, so it's great. Well, I've got a lot of people that I look up to in this business and in this industry for a lot of different reasons, but I don't say I have like one big role model. The people I really respect is both anchors and storytellers and what they're able to do, in this industry. The person that I grew up watching was Chris Widlick, who used to work here. And, when I'm in middle school, just imagining a dream of working in television, he's the guy that I always thought that, hey, that would be really cool to have his job. And now I do have his job. And so I remind him every time I see him that, hey, I'm just the kid that, had your job or has your old job now, and he's in Indianapolis doing great things. So that was kind of the person that first started my vision of wanting to be on, in sports, working in some capacity as a sports broadcaster. I think there's really, really good people in the industry like Kevin Kugler, who do play-by-play at the Big Ten Network, that I look up to, like a play-by-play man aspect. Mike Reese was a guy that really was a mentor to me at Southern Illinois University, and he's the radio play-by-play man down there. And play-by-play is something I'd love to do in the future. But he helped me really dream vision and cast a little bit of what I might want to do, and given me a lot of advice. And then my mentor all along has been Darren Kennard, the sports director formerly of WSIL TV, and now he does his own thing in the prep realm down there in Southern Illinois. So those are some names of guys that I really worked alongside, some of them, but really looked up to in this business of how to do things and how to operate and how to be successful. Yeah, so I have a great relationship with people here. We work as a team. I think that's the biggest thing. And that's something I like about this job too, and in this industry, is you have to work together as a team. So I have my own sports team that we work really, really closely with day to day and figuring that out with Andy Olson and Bryce Beeman. And I've had some great people that have worked here in the past. Marley Weirda, Anise McEwen, Craig Schote have been people that, I've had on my team and really cultivated and developed them and worked alongside, and it's been a lot of fun. But the anchor team with Jennifer Roscoe, Jessica Coons, Mac Hageman and Kevin Leidy, we all work really well together as anchors, and I think people can see that on air. At least I hope that they can, that we really like each other. We have a good time doing it, and when it's time to be serious, we certainly want to deliver the news and be serious and very professional about it, but we also like to have a lot of fun too, and I think people can see that, or at least I hope they can see that at home, that we really all like each other and we get along, and hopefully that shows through on air.
So what do you think is the current status for Illini basketball? As far as a news reporter like you, what's the most exciting part about this team?
Yeah, I think it's a lot of fun to cover a team that's good, obviously. Ultimately, I don't really care if they win or lose or not. I don't lose any sleep at night if they win or lose. But what I tell people is it's my job to cover this team fairly. I don't root for Illinois to win, but I have a lot more fun when they do win because they're good and then people care. So that's good for business in a sense. I grew up an Illinois fan. That's just what it was. Everyone comes from somewhere, and this is where I came from, growing up in Mahomet. But I think that over time that kind of faded a little bit, and you just work in a professional realm of like, hey, this is my job to cover this team and to try and see things in a unbiased way. Just to be fair, if Illinois loses a game that it shouldn't, say Maryland this year, which was a really tough game for them, it's my job to say that this was not a good performance and here's some reasons why, and give the facts of the situation. If they have a really, really good win, like they did this last week against Wisconsin, and then they go on the road and win at Indiana, it's also my job to just come out and say, hey, this was a really, really good win for this team, and provide the facts in that as well. So there's a lot of positives, there's a lot of negatives in that sense too, getting to be behind the scenes and work, with and around the team. But overall, it's a lot of fun, and I get paid to talk about Illinois sports.
What does your future look like 5 to 10 years down the road?
Wow, it's a tough question. I have literally no idea what that might look like. I'll be here for a couple more years, and my contract says I'll be here for a couple more years, but excited about the team I have right now. We'll see what happens in the future. I don't spend a lot of time worrying about that. I think it'll take care of itself, and I just have a lot of faith and trust that I'll be where I'm supposed to be. And so for now, I'm just trying to enjoy the ride of covering a top 15 Illinois basketball team and the potential for what that might be, and providing the best coverage we can, and what I feel like is the best coverage in the market that really, truly, you can't get anywhere else. That we're doing things, we're going places. We go to every single Illinois basketball and football game. We're the only television station in this market that does that. We provide digital exclusives that people don't get anywhere else, including the print media. So I feel like we're doing things and providing a service for people that is truly unique and exclusive in that sense. So I'm going to continue to cover that as best as I can, and we'll let the chips fall where they might after that. We'll see. One thing that I think people might not know about me is that I'm an adrenaline junkie in a sense. I've been skydiving multiple times. If it wasn't for my accident, I would have loved to have gotten certified in skydiving, and I still could do that in a sense, but it's just not worth it anymore with the injuries I have. So I've been skydiving several times, including in Hawaii, which is unbelievable. And I also played guitar, so there's something that people might not know about me. Absolutely. There's so many people that have helped me along in this journey, starting with my parents and my now wife, Jenna, who was just my girlfriend during my accident. But they've encouraged me, pushed me, and loved me the whole way through to get me to where I am now in this journey, and we'll see where that takes me after that. But family is first and foremost for me, and so for them to be able to encourage me on this journey, sacrifice a lot, especially my wife, who is at home with my kids a lot, when I'm traveling or doing some different things, working nights, holidays, weekends, all of those things. Family has been number one for me in encouraging me in that, and to dream big, and you never know where life might take you. And so I'm the living proof and testament of that. I never would have thought I'd be the sports director here at Channel 3, but hey, sometimes you're in the right place at the right time, and if you work hard and put yourself in positions to succeed, I firmly believe that you will do that. And so for me, it's been all about family and pushing me and getting me to where I am today.